This Zero Now program is brought to you with the support of our founding partners.
So please check that out. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce our guest. So first, Rick Schaefer, please, Rick, would you mind just providing some background on yourself and your connection to this very important topic?
Yeah, Rick Schaefer, Mount Vernon, Ohio, Mount Vernon City Schools. I've been with the district for 27 years. I kind of found my why when I dove into school safety. Excuse me. When I first started, I was hired in as a maintenance guy, and I was required to get a CDL and was driving the bus quite a bit. And then I moved on to this position and seeing where we were lacking in training our drivers. We were doing really good within our buildings, doing our Alice training and all that, and seeing where we were missing those folks. So that's what got me involved with this school bus safety training.
Awesome. Yeah, we can't wait to hear your experiences as we get this discussion rolling. Jeff, welcome, Jeff Baird. Would you mind just providing a quick background on yourself and your connection to the topic?
Yeah, I'm Jeff Baird, former transportation director at Liberty Schools in Missouri, and I'm now retired, and I work for a technology provider, Transport, and I found that technology is so critical in supporting on-bus activity.
It is, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, Jeff. But because we focus on the physical school structure, but we always talk about the school bus being a mobile classroom in many ways. So can't wait to hear your insights. And Dennis Ryan from North Penn School District. Dennis, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dennis Ryan, the coordinator of transportation with North Penn School District in Lansdale, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. I've been in the school bus industry for the last 16 years. Believe it or not, I went to school to be a sports writer, and then I wound up in transportation. So I really actually have a dedication to this industry and why safety to our students is so important. So glad to be a part of this group, and I'm a certified CDL trainer and examiner. So the training piece is an important piece to me, and making sure that our drivers are up to speed of what to do in specific situations.
No, absolutely. We'll jump into training in a little bit. So yeah, welcome, Dennis, Rick, and Jeff. And to get started, we always focus on, like I mentioned, the physical plan, if you will, the physical structure of the school and hardening the physical school. Rick, like how do we address extending that to the school bus? What can we put into place to harden or create a safe environment on the bus?
So I believe giving the drivers the same tools we give the teachers, maybe even a little more tools. They're out there by themselves, and they're a very soft target because it's a routine. Every day they're driving the same routes, and people can kind of learn that routine. So giving those tools from some de-escalation tool training, situational awareness training, even some threat management training and destabilization training is something that I've been providing with Mount Vernon City Schools and a couple of our other county schools, partnering with our local law enforcement and making sure we give them the tools to bring Alice, which is what we adopted in our school district, into a bus, but it's a little different.
Now, Jeff, you said you've been doing this for a little while before going to the private sector. I mean, where have you seen bus safety evolve, let's say, compared to 10 years ago, 15 years ago? I mean, has it changed at all?
It changed a lot. When I started as transportation director, I was told that the technology and processes were at a peak and they wouldn't change, and they've done nothing but change since then. And so I think the combination of safety focus and security focus and technology and training all come together to make a safe, secure bus.
And you mentioned training. I mean, Dennis, you mentioned training in your intro as well. Before I go on, I just want to remind folks, hit the Q&A button if you have questions for the participants. We'll take them as we roll along. But so what type of training do you have at North Penn, Dennis, for your drivers? Oh, Dennis, you're muted.
Sorry about that. So we go pretty in depth in terms of the training that we provide for all of our employees, and we're not just looking at like our bus drivers specifically. We're looking at our office staff, our maintenance staff, and our bus assistants as well, to make sure that they're up to speed with everything that's going on in the industry. We've been going into where we do virtual trainings through Alice, where they kind of go through threat assessment and what to do in specific situations when you're having a situation on the bus. We also utilized our own resources where we have board certified behavioral analysts with the district, and kind of going over students' behaviors and how to manage them properly. And I think that's very beneficial for us. In Pennsylvania, every school bus driver is required to recertify every 4 years. I'm not sure about other states. So basically, all the drivers are getting a refresher of the curriculum that they went through when they first became a bus driver again. And I think that's beneficial to make sure that bus drivers stay sharp. With everything that's changing in the world, that curriculum is constantly changing as well, to stay to the standard of everything going on in the industry.
Now, Rick, what about your district? I mean, what sort of training do you offer? Is it similar to North Penn with Dennis?
Very, very much so. The drivers are the first people to meet the students or greet the students every day, and they get to know them. So we want to give them the tools to kind of get to read the students. You get to know them. You see something different, know where to go with that information. Just giving the drivers the same tools we do all the other staff, all certified or classified staff. They all need to be trained the same.
And how is that typically done, Rick, in Liberty? I mean, do you have in-person training? Is it online? Is it is it done once a year at the start of the school year? I mean, what's your frequency of that?
So we do it in person. I do the training for that. We do it in person. I feel like it's more personable, and we can answer questions and talk through it during our in-service days. We try to do it at least annually. So it's just me by myself.
Right. A lot to do, but once again, going back to what Jeff mentioned, I mean, how have you seen the evolution of transportation safety going back, 10, 15 plus years?
It's a whole different worry to me. I can remember being put off the bus for being an idiot and having to walk. So but you can't do that anymore. You gotta work your way through things and give the drivers all the tools and the know-how to find their patients, remember that they're kids, and communicate with them and earn their trust. I think that's huge anymore. If the students are trusting our drivers and feeling good about what they're doing, then they're more apt to open up and be more open to our drivers.
No doubt, absolutely. And Jeff, what's interesting, you mentioned technology. What role does technology have, like GPS tracking? Like Rick, you mentioned, I mean, things have changed quite a bit over the years. I mean, with GPS tracking and other technologies, so how do they come into play when it comes to safety on the bus?
So I think the more you're in tune with what's going on in the bus, the faster you can get the information, the better off that you are. We At Liberty, we actually had live technology, and we were able to speak into the bus, and that kept us current with what was going on. So I could actually call a parent before the student got home and let them know what happened that day. And what that did was build the relationship. So there's a dynamic between speed and student relationships if we handle it properly.
Okay, well, and that's the interesting dynamic is, the prevalence of technology and being aware of, I mean, my kids, always have, find my friends and, hey, Dad, what are you doing over here? Like always, tracking where you are. And that's just part of, I guess that's part of culture and the way things are nowadays. Dennis, I mean, at North Penn, what type of technology are you employing on your buses? Oh, you are muted, by the way.
Sorry again.
Super
So yeah,
man.
we're kind of going full force with technology on our buses to, help with, whether it's tracking, utilizing bus tracking apps, where parents are able to track where the buses are at any moment. There's also scanners that we put onto the buses where we ensure that every student that's rostered to that bus is getting on that bus and off that bus. And then there's only specific circumstances where we allow, an additional student to get onto that bus. So that's helpful to ensure that the right students are getting onto the bus. And we also have technology inside and outside the buses where we have stop arm cameras on our buses that are able to track when a motorist violates a school bus red lights illegally. And I know that's been kind of a hot topic for the entire industry where having these cameras onto the buses, I would say that the goal of them is ultimately to eliminate people from running a school bus red lights and also raising awareness to everybody out on the road how important it is to stop when you're around a school bus, especially when those red lights are out. So that technology, I think, is beneficial, and I think, quite honestly, a lot of the technology we have on our buses will probably become the industry standard across the board because of what issues we may run into, so that buses aren't um, perceived as soft targets in terms of situations, to anything outside of the bus or the school.
And Rick, I'm sorry, Dennis, has that had a deterrent effect, the arm cameras? Have you seen any changes in behavior from that?
I mean, we're pretty new with it this year, so we just started this year, and we kind of expected that, things would, uh, our violation. We get a violation report every month of how many people run a school bus red lights. So as of right now, it's pretty high, but we expect that it will start to trend down lower and lower month by month as people receive tickets in the mail, knowing that next time I see a school bus, I'll know that I need to stop for it in that specific situation. And like I said, ultimately the goal is to raise awareness to all the motorists on the road so they know exactly what they need to do in that specific situation. And we provide resources to the community to, hey, if you have any questions about what the school bus stopping law is, we'd be glad to explain that to you. So you know that when there's a divided highway with a physical barrier, then there's actually, not a need to stop versus where, there's not a physical barrier when you do need to stop. So I think, raising that awareness and educating community is very important. But our goal is hopefully in North Penn is that things will continue to trend downwards, with those violations.
Yeah, and it'll take time for that awareness that you do
Mhm.
have that additional factor to identify those that are violating the law. But refreshing I mean, that's obviously always a challenge. I know I tend to, wonder about that too. If there's a, 3-lane road, like do you need to stop or not? And so I don't know how you would communicate that to the masses, but certainly making them aware of the technology would have a factor for sure. Now, is that new? I mean, like Rick, as far as what are some technologies that are you currently examining or considering certain technologies to enhance what you already have in your district?
Yeah, so it's very similar with the stop arm. I think we're a couple years in with that technology, with the cameras inside and out, audio visual. Um, so we have that. Something that is newer this year that to us anyway is having iPads in the buses for our subs. So they're not trying to drive down the road and read a piece of paper. It's actually got a GPS coordinates and will tell them the stops and much safer than trying to read and drive and all that. So that's a newer technology to us at Mount Vernon, which I've not got to see yet even, but they're just starting to implement.
Speaking of stops, so Dennis, I mean, how do schools assess and improve the safety of bus stops and routes? I mean, there's things that you can do, and especially in high risk areas.
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly evaluating our stops, and we actually have a email that we use that if parents are looking at their current students' current bus stop and they think that it may be unsafe, it's something that we're always looking at to evaluate of what could we do to potentially make that stop safer. So if, like, say it's at an intersection and the parent may feel that the intersection's unsafe, we'll go out there, look at the stop, and say, maybe we need to look at moving this stop, to the house potentially. So that's something we're always looking at. We're always evaluating and, looking at what we can do to be efficient with our routing. And, obviously our safety of our routes is the most important thing, to make sure, it works for everybody. So, that's something we're always evaluating, like every day, honestly. So it's and year by year, we look at the routes and say, you know, this intersection is kind of a evolving area where there's a lot more traffic in this area. Maybe we need to look at, going from a major intersection to going into the development instead, to pick up, for a specific bus stop.
Jeff, you have thoughts on that?
Well, we had a tendency with large stops to find that they were less safe, especially behavior wise. So it wasn't uncommon in an apartment complex or a housing development to take really big stops, split them apart, and pick them up in different locations. One time, we actually went in and had a community meeting in the evening because there was so much fighting at a stop. And we met with parents on the street in their development to help see how we could make things better.
It's interesting. I'd love to get, either one of you can answer this, but coming from the municipality perspective, I just finished a term on the local town council, and I know that we've had concerned residents about location of bus stops, crosswalks not available where they are. Have you had to work with your municipality to address certain infrastructure issues around bus stops? Have you had to experience that dynamic, or is that something that you would handle directly as a school district? Thoughts on that, Jeff?
We had routes go through a very mature neighborhood with people that lived there for 30, 40 years, and they absolutely did not want buses. So we had to meet with them and come to an agreement, not just on how we would route the buses, but the speed they went, and make sure the drivers were educated on the needs of that development. And school buses tend to look like they're going really fast in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. But, watching the speed and watching the path of the routes is really important.
No, no, and yeah, that is always. I definitely understand that perception of speed from the side of the road. There's no doubt about that. Excuse me. Now, Rick, you mentioned Alice training. Are there other programs or resources available for example, like stop the bleed training, or if the medical emergencies? Are you providing that type of training for your drivers?
Yeah, so when I go and do a training, I do the stop the bleed training as well. Another a great resource is your local law enforcement. We're kind of a more rural community. Back to our stops, like in our schools, I invite LE or law enforcement to stop and have lunch with kids. I also invite them to stop by our bigger stops and get to know the kids. Plus, they see a PD cruiser at bus stops, and it kind of makes people feel a little more safe as well. So just getting them involved. But back to your question, yeah, we do the stop the bleed training. There's this. I just kind of shrunk my Alice training and more brought it more contained, I guess is the word I want to look for, and do some destabilization drills. They beat me up pretty good, throw me around the bus. I stand up with a training gun and they take it away from me, and then we talk about what to do with that. And because just because you've got the threat or the threat down, there's still work to do, and keeping them contained until help gets there. And then also teaching the drivers, how to communicate that back to dispatch, and what to do with that information.
And so are all of your drivers, are they all employees of the district?
Yes.
Okay. Do either of you have an experience with contracted services?
Yeah, we have a contract. Yeah, we have a contractor that we work with for a good portion of the amount. We have district-owned vehicles. We also have a contractor in addition to that. So we ask that our contractor go through that training so that they keep their drivers in the same line as our drivers for that kind of training. And I know if you have some districts will have several contractors, and that can get kind of muddy where trying to keep them all on the same page with what the district's guidelines are and can get unorganized. So we try to keep everybody, no matter whether a district employee or a contracted employee, with what our guidelines are for our training. And quite honestly, in Pennsylvania, a lot of all the drivers that are school bus drivers have the same type of training. That's the state puts a curriculum together to have a school bus driver become a school bus driver, and going through that same recertification type of curriculum as well.
Nice. On that, no, I know Rick mentioned, doing drills and all that, but Jeff, I mean, what advice would you provide, or either one of you, but Jeff, we'll start with you. How do you handle everyday, not everyday things, but things like bullying or altercations on the bus? I mean, is that something that you expect the driver to address, and how do they handle the situation? Do they utilize technology? Do they call for backup? And what does that look like today on a modern bus?
So drivers want to feel supported, and that's any district around the country. And so how we use our training and our technology to support the drivers is important. We would give them access to video so that they could look at a disturbance, because what we found is that there's 3 steps before they fight. They get loud, they stand up, they approach, and the fight starts. So if we could address the loudness and the arguing in a timely manner, we would find that it could prevent fights. But once a fight starts, there has to be consequences. We've had parents board buses. We've had a stranger try and get on buses. And so everything that these guys mentioned in the way of training is super important. I think too, giving feedback to preferred behavior is just as important as giving feedback on negative behavior. So we really tried to interact with the drivers, and we did 2 check rides a year where we would take video clips and assess their driving skills, their student skills, and so on. And we found that did an awful lot to help them be aware of how they manage the bus. And then the final thing I'll say is that I came from a different industry, and when I got to student transportation, I got a slogan that I developed, and that is, I want to hire bus drivers with character. I don't want to hire people that know how to drive and try and teach them character. I'd rather teach people how to drive a bus.
That's a great perspective, Jeff. I mean, really, that's you're responsible for. We focus on classroom management. Are there courses on transportation, school bus management? Is that part of the training at North Penn, Dennis? Is that something that you do, how do you manage the bus and the behavioral aspects of it? not just
Yeah, I
driving.
mean, yeah, and I think, we get in as depth as like, going by the students specifically and how to manage their behaviors. We use our own resources with our own, district employees that are board certified behavioral analysts that can help with those specific types of situations and how to handle them specifically. And, we have a great community and a great partnership with all of our schools where we'll have principals that'll jump onto the bus themselves, take a ride with the kids, and help the driver in terms of managing behaviors and really getting to know the kids, and making sure that the drivers feel supported, and the students feel like that there's somebody they connect with on the bus too. And we're doing that across the entire district in all 18 of our buildings, to make sure that they do that. I'll jump on a bus and make sure that the driver feels supported, for any kind of behavioral issues that they are going through. So I think that's something that we have going on here. I think that's very beneficial with managing student behavior. And we're always looking to evolve what other things we could do, because if it's not riding on the bus, it's maybe utilizing a different type of technology that may come out in the future, to help with student management. And just kind of keeping those lines of communication always open, that the driver can always feel that they can speak to me, they can speak to a principal, they can speak to anybody they need to, in terms of any kind of student managed behavior issues, and always providing those resources to them. I think that's the most important thing, is making sure that they know that they have the resources for them to make them feel supported in any of these situations.
No, that's great, Dennis. I won't put you on the spot with this next question, but I'll ask this to Rick, and you can certainly jump in. Talk about speaking supported. So we have a number of superintendents, school board directors that are participating here today. Rick, at your district, I mean, of course you feel supported, but is there anything that you would request from school administration? Anything that they can do from your perspective that can help even further support your initiatives when it comes to transportation safety?
Yeah, I think just being there, letting the drivers know that you're there and you have their back. That's huge. Without the drivers, we're missing a lot of our population in our schools. So you've got to show them the support and have that open ear, open door policy, and give them the support they need. But I can't say that enough, really.
Dennis, anything that you would like to speak to your superintendent and school board?
Yeah, and then like Rick had said, the support and just knowing that, they have somebody that they can speak to about any kind of issues that they're going through on a daily basis. And I think something that, drivers appreciate also is just getting out there yourself and, doing the same thing that they're doing. Yesterday, well, not yesterday, last week, I had to jump on a bus myself, to go cover a bus route because we had a shortage of drivers for the day. And I think they truly appreciate that, from that standpoint, that you're willing to do what they're dealing with every day also, and trying to manage those behaviors yourself when you're, going through and covering those runs. I think that's truly appreciated. But we try to provide every single resource we possibly can to make sure all of our employees feel appreciated, but also supported, when they're going through, difficult situations.
Mr. Baird.
So one thing we did when we installed our own bus technology is we opened it up to all the district administrators. So every principal in the district in our 20 schools had access to see inside buses live. And people thought I was crazy for doing that. But what it actually did is gave the administration an appreciation of what the drivers experienced every day and how good they were at handling it. Not perfect, but good. And I think by opening that window, it automatically created credibility because we were no longer the secret bus driving down the road, but another classroom that the principal could walk by.
You know what? It sounds like we should invite your superintendents to, be drive a bus for a day, kind of step in the shoes of the team. No, I think that's a great idea. We'll take some questions. We're about halfway through here, and we had a ton of questions that came in online, but some of our participants asked questions. Okay, back where we started from, Rick, we talked about, hardening the buildings and having all this technology to secure buildings. Dr. Eberly asked, has anyone implemented weapons detection software on bus cameras? So we have, like, you've got concealed, you got visual weapons detection, you got concealed weapons detection when you walk into, schools, you gunshot detection, but do you have that technology on buses?
We do not have that technology on buses. We do have the gunshot detection on our campuses with our flock cameras and that, but we do not have any kind of weapons detection on the buses. It's just situational awareness training that we give our drivers and talk to them about what to look for. Michael Dorn he's got an awesome video out there of his teenage boy that looks like he has nothing, and I think he pulls out like 30-something weapons out of his pants and things. So just showing him those little clips and what to look for.
Absolutely. And not only website, but other video analytics too. I was at a conference last week, and Bruce Cannell, one of our vice president of Zero Now, was talking about video analytics on buses, whether it's facial recognition, identifying who came on the bus, who didn't come on the bus. He shared a story about a student when he was a safety director in Florida that got up, fell asleep in the back of the bus, and it took him, his parents were wondering where he was. It took him a while to find him. But Dennis, at your district, are you employing any video analytics, whether it's weapons detection, facial recognition, any other sort of analytics?
We do not have that yet, but it's something that we're definitely looking at in terms of, what's to come, because we'd like to be proactive to the situation, and making sure that we're ahead of the curve of anything that, could potentially happen in the future. So, looking to see what's out there. I know that, FMCSA and PennDOT have certain regulations of what type of equipment is supposed to be on school buses specifically. And then that's something that's a conversation to be had of having that type of specific equipment on buses too. So I think, to say it's coming, I don't know of anybody that quite honestly even has it yet. But I would say that it's definitely coming in the very near future.
Jeff.
We are using motion detection capability to alert the district if there's any movement on a bus once it parks. The child left behind can be a pretty fatal event in the winter or in the hot weather in the summer. So we're just close to releasing the capability to detect the movement on the bus and alert our district to it. And I think that will do an awful lot to help.
Well, and that's the thing. Motion detection, counters, okay, 50 students came on the bus, 50 students got off the bus, just to, whatever that is. That's the thing. Cameras are just getting smarter every day, and so those technologies are there. But yeah, it's like our conversation started with, securing the school, putting all this, these investments into the physical security aspects of the school. Are we doing that on the side of the mobile classroom? So no, very interesting stuff. Let's take some more questions here from our registrant. So Nicholas asks, he's from Clearfield Regional Police Department. As an SRO, what can I assist my school district with implementing in school transportation to improve better bus behavior and safety? So how can SROs help? Who wants to take that question? Is there a role with SROs, Jeff?
Well, we actually had a meet and greet with the middle schools with local police. We actually would buy them cookies and hand them out at dismissal, just so that the kids would get a different perspective of who a police officer is and what their role is. And we found that to be very effective. We had SROs in every school, and so building that relationship was important.
What's interesting about that is right the perception of law enforcement, from being okay, wow, you did something wrong, you're in trouble, to okay, no, this is a helpful role. I know in the higher education space, speaking to a chief, and one of his officers was playing basketball with some of the students. And when he went back to the office, he said, "Am I in trouble because I just spent 20 minutes playing basketball with students?" He goes, "No, that's fantastic. You're there engaging with students in a non-violation type atmosphere. So that is absolutely critical." Rick, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree. We're blessed with a SRO that's amazing. He's playing with the kids. He's out at the morning drop off and welcoming the students as well. So just being that friendly face and that trusted face. It's not just the guy that's was separating mom and dad last night or something. They're there to be support.
No doubt. Linda asks, can parent behavior prevent a child from riding the school bus? Does anyone want to take that one? I'm not sure what that is. Have you had issues with parents, Jeff?
Yeah, we did, and it was not unusual if a parent boarded a bus for us to do a no contact or no access letter, or go to the court and get uh, an order that they could not board a bus or come into a school until it got worked out.
Mm.
We probably had that 2 or 3 times, and it was never good. So,
Well, I'll say on that note, so Dennis, we have a question from the participants that ask, a participant asks, do you or your drivers have support code words or phrases to communicate with dispatch if the driver is compromised, if there's a situation on the bus?
Yeah, we have specific codes, and we also have equipment on our radios that are able to, relate to dispatch right away when there's an emergency happening on the bus. So we basically have like an emergency button, and then dispatch is able to, look at where the bus is at located, and if there's, no response, then we can reach out to the police to go to where that bus is specifically, if they are in an emergency situation. We're very adamant to our drivers about the utilization of that emergency button, because if they accidentally press it, we need to make sure that we know exactly what's happening in that situation. So yeah, we definitely utilize, whether it's technology or a code word or like a color, something along those lines to signify what's happening on the bus at a specific time.
And going back on the technology route here, one of our participants asks from Skokie School District 68. We talked about some video analytics, right? And so how do you balance safety technologies with cameras with video analytics with privacy concerns? And this comes up all the time, especially if you mention facial recognition. That's always a hot topic of concern. But have you had to encounter that? I think Jeff, you were mentioning utilizing video analytics, I believe.
yeah. And I think, it's important to remember that the district is covered by confidentiality all over the place. And anybody with access to the cameras has to be reminded that this is for business only. We do not allow anyone on staff to access cameras for their neighbor's child or for a reason other than business as usual. And we had that happen one time, and we acted pretty quickly, and it didn't happen again. Confidentiality and safety can go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's always a factor, especially as technology evolves. Maintaining that level of privacy is always critical.
There's now blur technologies on cameras too, so that if you're going to share a video with a parent, you can blur everything out except for their child.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. We have a question here from Steve from North Pennsylvania. Will the Eagles win the Super Bowl? Oh, sorry. I was a Bills fan, so no, just kidding. Augie, just kidding. No, Eagles not. No, sorry. Wow, that was just blew right up. Okay, let me just like I said, he's a Bills fan. Okay, let's take a look here. Charles from Petal School District, should discipline for infractions on buses be handled the same manner as other school-related discipline? Rick, we want to take that one?
Yeah, I believe so. I think consistency is key. Um, I think you've got to be consistent and with the discipline, so that you keep that ball moving forward.
Uh, so on that note, and Dennis, we have a number of school safety and security directors, part of the National Council of School Safety Directors in the Zernow community. What role does a safety security director have in your district, like Brandon Roan, for example, with transportation safety in your district?
Yeah, Brandon and I have a very good relationship. I mean, we talk often about, emergency situations, whether it's happening on the bus or outside of the bus, what to do in specific situations. I think that relationship is crucial between whether it's a transportation director and a safety director to kind of be, just coinciding with what's going on in the district and what's going on in the buildings and keeping in line with that. And, Brandon has been great with our department in terms of, providing the training that we need for dealing with those specific situations. Like the Alice training, for example, Brandon brought that into our district, to help with, not just, our transportation employees, but all of our employees throughout the entire district, and just making it known that safety is the utmost importance of across the board, because that's what it's all about. We're making sure our kids get to school safe, and we're making sure that we get them home safe, and whatever we have to do to make that happen, we make it happen.
And Rick, in Mount Vernon, do you have a security or safety director dedicated role, or is that something that's handled by
That's
another person?
that's me. I'm not the
Okay.
director of transportation, so I'm the director of operations and safety for the district. So I'm also a certified Alice trainer, and that's kind of where I brought that, and we condensed it for the drivers, and just try to show them some techniques that they could use.
And so, do you, as a safety security director and operations, do you have what type of relationships do you have with local law enforcement?
It's actually amazing. Anytime I get to speak, I talk about how blessed we are here in Knox County, Ohio, with all of us working together. In fact, there's a bus. Instead of trading in a bus, one of our buses each year, we give it to SWAT so that they can do their training, and we can do some other kind of trainings in the buses. So well, along with that trick, me giving them a bus, they come and help us with do some training within the schools and our buses as well.
And Jeff, out in Liberty, what type of dynamic did you have? Were you also the safety director? Did you have a dedicated safety security director that you would interface with?
We had a dedicated safety director who we interface with quite a bit, and he helped us with our intruder training, role playing, and those kind of exercises. So it was really important that he be part of the equation. The other thing is that we would bring the local SWAT team in once a year, and they would go around and familiarize themselves with the different buses, how to disable them, how to turn them off. And what we found is that um, thankfully it's nothing they ever had to use, but the spirit of cooperation did an awful lot between the police department and the school district.
So I have a question here. So this is interesting. Any noticeable differences in student behavior or incidents between diesel-powered versus electric or propane-powered buses? Does that even make a difference?
So
Dennis,
we,
you want
we
to
actually, yeah, we actually have propane powered buses in our fleet, and it's actually the majority of our fleet at this point is propane powered. So it actually, I would say, has helped with that in regard because the buses are quieter. So it gives the drivers the ability to just speak normally, rather than feeling like they have to scream over the loud sounds of a diesel engine to get a student's attention. So I think that's definitely beneficial in that regard for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I wasn't even aware of that. I mean, Rick, is that a factor in your district, or have you?
No, not really. We've got gas and diesel buses, gasoline and diesel. But I've not heard of that swaying behaviors either one way or another.
Yeah, that's interesting, Dennis. Yeah, I was not aware of that. So we have another question, and Dennis, I'll throw this back to you because you mentioned Alice training. The question is, do you support Alice bus driver training curriculum? So is that a specific curriculum just for buses?
Well, it's in depth for buses and just school support employees as a whole. So they have specific training to buses, and they have specific training to, as if you're walking around the campus, what to do in specific situations. So yes.
Okay. Yeah, and the individuals, so they've heard some, good and bad things about that. So that is interesting. Um, okay, so somebody asked, and we did sort of touch upon this a little bit earlier. Let's see. I'm looking for suggestions on how drivers can respond to a fight on a bus, and also a parent trying to board the bus. We talked about the parent thing a little bit, but how do you address that? Who wants to take that question? Let's start with a parent trying to board a bus when they shouldn't, and then secondly, what do you do when there is a fight that breaks out on a bus?
So, I mean, for us, if a parent's trying to board the bus and they're coming on the bus in some sort of aggressive behavior, we're calling 911 right away, to, address the situation right away as well. And we have the cameras inside and outside the bus to see exactly what is going on. And we had, our cameras actually have the ability for, myself or any administrator that has access to the cameras to see what's going on live on that bus. And then same thing for a fight on the bus, depending on, the severity, when we're calling the cops, to address the situation if need be, in that type of, behavior because, we don't want to put the drivers in harm's way of trying to break up the fight. Best thing that we suggest to them is, in a situation like that, is that they pull over, try to get the student's attention, verbally, to stop. And if they're not stopping, they're reaching out to us, and then we're calling the police from there to go out and address the situation.
Yeah.
We have found that if you can't get the door shut and move away, the driver has the higher ground. And it's really hard for someone to enter the bus if a driver's taking a very strong position on the top step. So we actually role play that so that when something comes up, it's rehearsed, remembered, and they put it into use.
So this would be, this just occurred to me. I mean, for those of you who have been doing this for a while, like pre-social media, pre-mobile iPhone and smart devices, you would think that incidences of bullying and altercations have decreased because our students more focused on their own personal device on the school bus. Has it increased incidents, or has it not even made an impact at all? So Jeff, I know you mentioned you've had some history. I mean, has the impact of social media and the availability of phones impacted behaviors?
Um, I think it can globally. I'm not sure it relates specifically to the bus. Um, Social media is probably the most prevalent form of bullying that I've seen that is largely unrecognized. And so that does carry on to a bus.
Right. Yeah. I'm just wondering if the interactions are different because of that. Rick, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with social. As social media has come along, we've noticed our bullying uptick just as a whole. because they can do it behind a screen, and they feel more comfortable than face to face. So it's really went up.
We had problems with airdrops and Snapchat and things like that going on that would stir up a lot of commotion between the students.
Well, and that's the thing, because I'm looking at my own experience, my own children. It seems like the incidence of physical altercations have somewhat got down, but it's more cyberbullying. It's more, on the phone versus in person. So yeah, I'm just wondering if that has made an impact. Let's see here. We have some more questions that keep coming in here. Let's see here. Da, da, da. Okay, so Jeff asked if there's any district that can share policy and procedures they have in place for bus drivers. I don't know if either of you have policy that you could post. So after we're done with the live program, we're going to move back to the Zero Hour community. So Rick, Dennis, and Jeff will answer any of the questions we did not get to here, and also share takeaways and resources. So if anyone that's on here, including Rick, Dennis, and Jeff, if you have policy or procedures that you could share with other members of the community, let's post that right to this when we're done here. Okay, this is a good question, Jonathan. Do cell phone policy because this is a hot topic, cell phone bans. Do cell phone policies and bans extend to your buses, and is it realistic to enforce? I think Dennis, we'll let you address that initially.
So we actually just recently enforced a policy for our students, secondary students, to not have cell phones in a classroom with them. So it hasn't extended to the bus quite yet. It's kind of, I would say, how you manage that on a bus versus a classroom could be different, because I know, like, we put a specific area in a classroom where the students could put their phone away. Where do you have a specific area for students to put their phone away on a bus? I mean, that's kind of difficult to navigate that, obviously. So we're not there yet, but it's something that I think we could look at potential solutions for sure.
And that has been a hot topic for a while, but go ahead, Rick.
No, I would agree. We have implemented a cell phone policy within the building, but not so much on the bus.
And just curious, so what is the policy that you did implement at your district?
So they can put their cell phone in the classroom. They put them in a sleeve, and they're put away throughout the day. And then study hall and lunch, for the 6 through 12, they can get their phone for a little bit for that. But while they're in the learning environment, there's no phone.
And that has been certainly a highly contested topic nationwide, depending on urban schools, rural schools, suburban schools, access, and it's something that we're all engaging with and dealing with. We have just a few more minutes. I always want to leave some time for each of you to leave your final thoughts and words of wisdom for our participants, and really, thinking about advice that you would give, because, like I said, we have folks on here, school administrators, safety directors. This is a very, most of the participants today actually are in the academic space. But any final thoughts that you would like to share with the group, some key takeaways from, if there's one thing that you had to do when it came to transportation safety, for some guidance. And Jeff, we'll start with you.
I think my only point would be that pay attention to the details and drill down so that any issues that you have result in a training opportunity and improve your operation.
And that is a key thing, Jeff. We talk about operation, and one of the objectives with Zero Now is helping provide guidance to operationalize school safety. It's not something you do. You write your safety plan, put it in a binder, throw it on the shelf. Okay, we checked that box off. But operationalizing school safety means 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And it involves people, most importantly, people, right? It's the people. Which one of you said that you hire for character? What was it? Was that you, Jeff?
Yes, hire people with character and teach them how to drive. Don't
Exactly.
hire drivers and try and teach them character.
Exactly. I love it. That's exactly it. It's because it's people, processes, procedures, technology, all those things, but it all starts roots with the people. So no, really appreciate that. Dennis, any guidance that you would share with our participants?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, training is so important, and staying current with the training, because, our world is evolving day by day, and trying to stay proactive and, avoiding a critical situation from happening is crucial. So that support, training, resources, whatever you can do to provide the support for the people who are your bus drivers, your bus assistants, your office staff, your maintenance staff. Um, that's critical, to make sure your operation runs as it needs to. Because without the people and without those resources, you're putting yourself prone for something, terrible to happen. And that's what we don't want to happen. So that training piece and that support is very, very important.
Yeah, and that is really get those people with character, get the best people that you can, and get them trained. It's a common theme here. And Rick, any final thoughts and words of wisdom that you would like to share with our group?
Yeah, I would echo Jack, what Dennis and Jeff both said about the training, and don't forget how important your drivers are and how important they are to the district. Without them, we don't get all the kids we need to. Also, don't forget to utilize them during your Alice drills. Maybe have them drive to Rally Point and then maybe bring them right back to school. Just get your drivers involved with school safety as a whole.
Absolutely. It takes everybody. I mean, safety is a community effort, and get your superintendents, principals on the buses too. I think that's a great word of advice. So no, thank you, gentlemen. Really appreciate this. And so what's going to happen next is we've got this conversation. We have our roundtables and our online discussion. So in a few weeks, we're going to be releasing a like a white paper on transportation safety based on all these discussions that we're going to share with the rest of the community. Next month, let me see here. Where is it? I just saw this come up over here. So our next month, we're zeroing in on countering disinformation in school crisis, and this could come into play with transportation safety too. What happens when there's an incident in your school and the word starts spreading about what's happening, but it's not what's actually happening. So we're going to talk about that next month. So Rick Schaefer, Dennis Ryan, Jeff Baird, appreciate all of your time today. Appreciate our participants. Please go to zeronow.org, click on community, and we'll continue this conversation in the community and answer any questions that we were not able to answer here. And we'll see you all shortly. So thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.